Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of June 19th to the 25th, though. There won't be any video game review for this week. Instead, I might do one based on streaming or TV show I just finished watching, though. I might do that might record that on tomorrow, like on a Saturday, and put it up on Tuesday, but there won't be any video game for this week, though, to be exact. But anyway, we got 4 stories to cover this week, including supposedly a really serious game-breaking bug found, at least in the Switch version of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, though. We've also heard response made by the head of Illumination Pictures and Chris Pratt himself in regards of the Super Mario movie, which has obviously was supposed to come out this year, but has been delayed into next year, though. I also want to give my thoughts, or just talk to about the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct that we had this week. And of course, Treasure, the developers of games like Guardian Heroes and Gunstar Heroes, though, has basically announced they might be working on something, though. If you're interested in where I got the source of information, though, I'll have links in the description down below, or links in the description down below this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. But before we get started, I like to do what I like to call is the quick My 2 Cents. Stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details, though. The first one is a report from Game Radar, which has basically reported that a lot of PlayStation fans are thinking that a new State of Play will be coming up, but haven't heard, but nothing's been confirmed at this time, though. It would be interesting if Sony does a brand new State of Play, though. There are some that are speculating believing that they could be based off of, God of War Ragnarok, as there are reports that a release date for that game is imminent, though. A lot of people think it's going to come out this year. Some think it might be next year. So we'll have to wait and see, and we'll have to see if a new State of Play is coming up soon or not. We also learned that DICE will now be focusing heavily on the Battlefield franchise, particularly with Battlefield 2042, and it looks like, and that pretty much any other basically IPs, such as a revival of anything like Mirror's Edge or anything, are now on the back burner. This has to do with the response for the new CEO of DICE and all that stuff. And some people may or may not hear that, though, as Mirror's Edge certainly had a following out there, as there are fans of that series, to be exact. Obviously, it's all hands on deck, especially with Battlefield 2042, considering how horrible, or shall we say how terrible, that game launched in the state that it was already in. Maybe they'll figure something out. Maybe the next Battlefield will be better, but then again, this is EA we're talking about, so I would say, if that's the case, keep your expectations in check on that one. We also learned that Sega and Creative Assemblies has revealed their brand new game. It's a space FPS shooter called, that's my water cup, Hyena, though, and it's basically a hero shooter. And last time I checked, at least according, if you go on YouTube, though, the response, well, it didn't exactly get the greatest of response, to be exact, though. And some of it may be not everyone is happy with the game that Creative Assembly puts out, considering this is the studio famous for games like the Rome Total War to Alien Isolation, a game that got a better response than what we saw with Alien Colonial Marines. But right now the response is exactly great. We'll see what happens when the game does come out. Supposedly it's been in development for 4 years, and yeah, not a great response for a game that you've been working on for 4 years, to be exact. We learned that supposedly that the whole chip shortage, or the supply shortage situation, is having an impact on basically the Xbox controllers, though, which is going to be a little bit unfortunate, especially for those who are taking part in that whole Xbox design thing, where you basically design your Xbox controller, or in terms of what it looks like and all that stuff. So yeah, not exactly great news. The whole shortage situation has been, or the chip shortage as well, has not been great, to be exact. We also learned that supposedly Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the movie, has already passed $400 million in the box office, which is pretty good, and it's pretty impressive for a movie that, you know, when it was first revealed, not everyone liked the ugly Sonic though, but once they improved Sonic's design and all, it really has taken off. And the fact that we're going to get a third one, which is great. No word if Jim Carrey would return as Dr. Robotnik or not. I think he should. And it looks like this is certainly helping set in the stage for basically a Sonic cinematic universe. And right now, I will say Paramount has certainly hit the ball out of the park on this one in terms of the Sonic the Hedgehog, you know, movies and all that stuff. We also learned that the Activision board of directors, or the investors, has re-elected Bobby Kotick to be in charge of Activision Blizzard, despite the whole controversy in terms of the allegations and the whole abuse and all that stuff. It's really, to me, it's really disgusting to see the fact that he's got reelected and all, considering that I think he needs to go and all that stuff. But maybe maybe they saw something different, or maybe they want him to stay on as a transition, as they try to complete the transaction in terms of Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard. But in either case, I just think it's really sad that he's still at Activision Blizzard. He's really needs to go, though. We also learned that Suda51 has kind of responded on an idea of what he would like to see for a No More Heroes movie. One of the things he brought up is that he would like to have James Gunn direct the movie and all that stuff. And I could see, and that could work in a way. After all, him and James Gunn did work together on the game Lollipop Chainsaw that was released back during the PS3 and the Xbox 360 era, which last time I heard, I think they got Suda51 got the rights back though. Although, honestly, I mean, while I wouldn't be against the idea of James Gunn doing a No More Heroes movie, I would say I would prefer more of an anime style. I think that would be a perfect fit though. Although in a way, No More Heroes, you definitely, to some degree, at least from my view, I do get somewhat of a Quentin Tarantino vibe out of it to a certain degree. So I think he could be an ideal director if a No More Heroes movie does happen though. We also learned that Famicom has shared some art concepts for their next Y or Yeast series though, and the reports seem to be pointing towards that they're looking at a Souls-like approach, to be exact though. That would be kind of interesting to see if they take that kind of approach with the Yeast series going forward, considering that it is sort of the action RPG, to be exact though. And it's possible they saw how well Elden Ring has been doing lately, and they figure maybe we should consider our next one to be sort of a Souls-like approach. Whether that sits well with fans of the series or not, that remains to be seen though. We also learned that No Man's Sky is for the Nintendo Switch, will be out in October 7th though, and supposedly there will be a physical edition, and we'll have all the 6 years supposedly of DLCs and content though. It's pretty amazing how far that game has come since it originally launched though. While I'm happy for a physical version, I do wonder if this is going to be a actual physical version with all the content in it. Is it going to be you get the cartridge and you have to download the rest, or is this just a empty box with a piece of paper in it? So we have to know about that one though. And of course, while that's great, we've also learned that supposedly No Man's Sky, at least the Nintendo Switch version, will only be a single player experience. Some people may or may not like this depending on your point of view. There are those who did like the multiplayer experience, but to me, since I'm more of a single player experience person, I'm not losing any sleep out of it. That said, they are going to constantly supposedly update No Man's Sky, and the Switch version will be the exception. So maybe they'll put a multiplayer version in the Switch version at some point down the road. And last but not least, there is certainly reports seems to be indicating that it's possible a Nintendo Direct could happen next week. The recent rumor has started to pop up saying that apparently there are some downtime at the UK My Nintendo store. Now, it could be indication that a Nintendo Direct could be happening, or it could just be nothing more than just maintenance though, and maybe they're just fixing some stuff, or maybe preparing some stuff to do, maybe like the pre-orders for maybe the limited edition of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, considering there have been reports of how Nintendo has not handled those pre-orders properly. So it's possible it could be for that, but we'll have to wait and see, and we'll find out next week if a Nintendo Direct really does happen or not though. Okay, and now with the quick My Two Cent part now done, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with the video game developer Treasure. Now, Treasure is known for creating a lot of these smaller or unique titles like 2D shooters or shump is what they call them though, to ones that have gained sort of a following. Games like Guardian Heroes and Gunstar Heroes are well-known examples of those games though, to even some that have made it onto Nintendo platforms, whether it was Enix before becoming Square Enix, Mischief Maker for the Nintendo 64 back in 1997, to developing games like WarioWare for the GameCube, to even Sin and Punishment first appeared on the N64 but only in Japan. It would later appear in the US thanks to the virtual consoles and all. And of course, its sequel, I think, Star Successor, if I'm saying the name correctly, Sin and Punishment Star Successor, which would also land on the Nintendo Wii, and was one of the few games I thought where the Wii Remote and nunchucks made sense, and it was done in a way that made a whole lot of sense. That game, you could say, in some ways, kind of feels to some degree like a spiritual successor to Sega's classic Space Harry series, to be exact though. So they have been known to develop a lot of smaller like 2D titles and so forth though. But recently we started to hear that it looks like Treasure may be working on a highly requested game as it basically prepares to celebrate its 30th anniversary though. In an article posted in Video Game Chronicles, it reads, and I quote, "Treasure is working on a highly requested title it has claimed. The company, which is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year, previously developed Akura, another good game, I remember that from the GameCube era, Radiant Silvergun, apologize I'm not saying these names correctly, and WarioWare in collaboration with Nintendo. The company tweeted, quote, on June 19th, 2022, Treasure celebrates its 30th anniversary. This year, the 30th anniversary, we are working on hard to announce the highly requested that title. We're looking forward to your continued support of Treasure though. Treasure's last release was a dual 3DS game in the Gaze Crusher series. Prior to this, the company has been proliferating during the PS2 era consoles, developing 12 titles between 2000 and 2006 though. It is unknown whether the game that Treasure intends to announce is a wholly original IP or revising one of the titles it has worked on in a collaboration with Nintendo. Cult N64 game Sin and Punishment received a sequel in 2009 for the Wii, but the series has been dormant since. The company's understand to now consists of fewer than 10 employees, primarily handling re-releases of its classic titles, so it's possible that this will be a collection. However, if this is to be a sequel to a classic Treasure IP, Akira seems to be the most popular choice based on the response to the studio's tweets. Now, you can look at this in many different ways, though. You could look at it as it could be the game that I mentioned, Akura. It's possible they could be working on a sequel. It's also possible we could see something like a remake or a sequel to Mischief Maker, something I wouldn't be against the scene, to be exact, though. It's possible a third entry of Sin and Punishment could technically happen on the Nintendo Switch, or at least a port of the one from the Wii to make its way over to the Nintendo Switch. I mean, we've seen Skyward Sword come to the Nintendo Switch. I can't see why you can't bring the Sin and Punishment game over to the Nintendo Switch. Or it could be something completely left field from Treasure that we've never even heard about. So, to me, there are many ways we could approach of exactly what that game might be. I personally would like to see a sequel or a remake of Mischief Maker, as I mentioned before, or the third entry, or the port of the Wii game of Sin and Punishment though. I certainly would be open to the idea if a port or a sequel to, say, Guardian Heroes or Gunstar Heroes, both the Game Boy Advance one, or a new entry though. So I certainly would be down with that. But again, time will ultimately tell, and we'll have to wait and see exactly what Treasure has in store for us. So overall, very interesting to see that Treasure is still active, though. I'm very curious to see what this game they are referring to is, to be exact, though. But as of right now, it's pretty much anyone's guess at this time. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one has to do with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, as it just had its own Nintendo Direct, though. And a lot of information has come out about it. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my 2 cent video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This is probably one of my biggest titles I'm looking forward to, at least on the Nintendo Switch side, for 2022, though. We know that it will be coming out on July 29th, which certainly is yeah, so waiting for that special date, though. But or that for it to come out, though. But this week we did have basically a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 direct, though. It wasn't a long direct, though. It was about 20 minutes long, to be exact, though. But they did spill out a lot of information, though, and we did learn about the world that they'll be in. And it's pretty much a brand new world, I believe. If I could look it up, though, I think the world is basically. Let's see, shoot, what's it called again? Quack. Yeah, okay. It's basically we'll call Ionis, though, basically. And the world itself, judging by the look of it, though, it's going to follow what both Xenoblade 1 and 2 were. Basically, it's going to be a very big world to explore and so forth, though. And we did also get a lot more information in regarding the combat system, though, and according to several information about it, though, it seems as though, according to this, you'll have different classes, to be exact, though. We have classes like the Sword Fighter, the Zeppeli, though. We have the Mech Gunner, the Heavy Gunner, the Tactician, the Tactics, I mean, to be exact, though. We also learned that basically you can combine some of these classes and they can level up and so forth, though. The battle system in the game is going to be real time, and you can switch between different parties freely, though. But we also learned that basically the battle system will be, based on what they showed so far, it's going to be somewhat similar to what the battle system was, kind of like in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, where a lot of your arts are mapped to the interface buttons, which is completely different than how it was in the first Xenoblade Chronicles game or Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, where you had to use the direction button to select the different kind of arts for your characters to use. So basically, your character is going to automatically attack, and then you basically use the arts, though, and obviously every time you use the arts, there's a cooldown period. You're going to have to wait to use it, and so forth, though. So some of this should be very similar for those who have played any of the other Xenoblade Chronicles games out there, though. Some ideas we've seen are basically you can fuse two characters together, basically called the Ouroboros interlink, if I'm saying this name correctly. From this article from IGN, they explain it probably the best to say, by far the coolest reveal of the Direct is the interlink, an ability that allows two party members to fuse together in a Neon Genesis Evangelion-like mech creature thing called an Ouroboros. Specifically, let me get this out, right? Okay, specifically, pairs of characters are able to do this, and depending on which characters choose to be the dominant mind in their pair, an Ouroboros ability can change. As such, you want to choose the right pilot for the task. Interlinking is only a temporary deal, so you need to make the most out of your Ouroboros before the timer runs out, but they could join in with chain attacks to create huge damage combo, so that certainly is really neat indeed, though. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this works, though. I assume we're going to see some of the most stable stuff, such as the ability to collect certain items and the heart-to-heart moments that have been one of the staples of the Xenoblade Chronicles series, to be exact, though. And of course, they've also announced the expansion pass and the amiibo functionality, though. In terms of the amiibo functionality, according to what they explain and what I've been reading, though, basically you could scan them for basically to get items. Although it hasn't been revealed yet, I assume there's going to be some limitations of how many times you can scan an amiibo to get certain items. I think we've seen this before in the past. I mean, for example, Breath of the Wild, for example, you can scan up to 5 amiibos for one day, and after that, you have to wait the next day to scan the next group of amiibos. To be exact, though, it's been reported that if you scan the Shook amiibo, you'll get the Monado, one of the, a skin that looks like the Monado from the sword from the original Xenoblade Chronicles and all. Which is certainly all cool, which is certainly nice and all. The one area I'm not a huge fan of, to be exact, though, is the expansion pass. This was announced during the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct, though. Now, according to what has been reported about the expansion pass, it will be will cost $30 when it launches. It will include a new story scenario, which will be released by the end of next year. The pass will add helpful items and outfit color varieties by the end of 2022. A new challenge battle, new heroes, and quests and new outfits will be added. And by the end of April 2023, though, another new challenge battle, hero quest, and outfit is also promised to have arrive, to be exact, though. So, I mean, that's okay and everything like that. I just don't like the idea of them announcing the expansion pass before the game comes out, because it gives the impression right away that this was cut content out and all that stuff, though. Now, maybe that wasn't Nintendo's intent or anything like that. And to bear in mind, though, Nintendo isn't the only company that has done this before. Other video game developers have done this, whether it's first, second, or third party developers, though. And we've seen this before, whether you game on a console, or whether you game on PC for that matter. It's just, I'm not a big fan of this kind of approach, to be exact, though. So I'm still a little iffy about them announcing the expansion pass well before even the game came out, though, okay? Even if that wasn't their intent, it still gives the impression of basically that this was basically cut content or anything like that. And obviously, depending on your point of view, Pyra is not in it. I know she became sort of a fan favorite for Xenoblade Chronicles fans, everyone's favorite waifu for obvious reasons, but I mean, I'm okay with how the characters are designed and all that stuff. So my takeaway from this Direct is that I like what I saw. The combat looks interesting. I've been a fan of the original Xenoblade Chronicles. I'm looking forward to picking this one up. I just don't like the whole expansion pass approach that Nintendo and Monolith Soft did with this Direct, though, okay? Again, it may not be their intent, though, but I don't like the fact that they announced this before the game came out, though. Hopefully this game does very well, especially with the install base that the Nintendo Switch has. And one last thing, Nintendo, Monolith, you gotta port Xenoblade Chronicles X over to the Nintendo Switch, okay? That game needs another chance, though. We've seen games like Wonderful 101 make its way over to the Nintendo Switch. We've seen New Super Mario Bros. U make its way over to the Nintendo Switch, though. It's high times now that Xenoblade Chronicles X makes its way over to the Nintendo Switch. Even if you let a port house done it, properly, to be exact. We don't want a Grand Theft Auto trilogy situation like what Rockstar did and all that stuff. But seriously, Xenoblade Chronicles X needs to come to the Nintendo Switch. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3. And this one has to do with the head of Illumination and even Chris Pratt himself responding to in regards of the Mario movie. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my 2 cent video for this week. And for this one, I want to be talking about the Mario movie, or the Super Mario movie. Now, that movie up to this point has sort of been shrouded in mysteries, as we haven't really seen any footage or anything like that outside of maybe a leak about the story or something like that has come out. And other than the fact that Illumination Productions, the same studios that did animated features such as Sing to the Despicable Me series, is working on it though, to even hearing about some of the voice actors like Seth Rogen doing Donkey Kong, to Chris Pratt, aka Star-Lord from the Guardians of the Galaxy and the MCU movies, voicing Mario. Now, the movie was originally supposed to come out this year, but it got delayed into April 2023. I assume that was the new release date though. Now, there could be multiple reasons given why that could be the case. Some people speculated maybe they did a screen testing of it and it didn't go over very well. Others speculated that perhaps maybe the movie wasn't ready to go and maybe it needed a little bit more time in the oven, or maybe the fact that the success of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which, as I explained in the quick My 2 cent part, recently crossed over $400 million in the box office though. Maybe that had kind of impact though. But in either case though, it seems that we will have to wait until next year for the movie to come out. Well, recently the head of Illumination Entertainment or production, and even Chris Pratt, have recently chimed in on the Super Mario movie itself though. In two articles, the first one from GameSpot, it reads that, quote, the studio said, quote, that Mario's movie boss responds to criticism over Pratt voicing the main character. It says, the studio head and producer of the upcoming Super Mario movie has responded to the online backlash against Chris Pratt, who voicing the title character Mario. The CEO of the Minion Studios, Illumination, told Deadline that non-believers might get on board when they finally hear Pratt in the role of the Porky Plumber. This is what he had to say, quote, when people hear Chris Pratt's performance, the criticism will evaporate. Maybe not entirely. People love to voice opinions as they should, he said. It's also pointed out that the CEO, who is Italian American, doesn't believe Pratt's portrayal of Mario will offend Italians or Italian Americans. I'm not sure this is the smartest defense, but as a person who has Italian American heritage, I feel I can make that decision without worrying about offending Italians or Italian Americans. I think we're going to be just fine though. Pratt has been criticized in the past by Eli Page and others for his connection to the Hillsong Church. However, the CEO of Illumination didn't comment on that in the Deadline interview. Writer-director James Gunn, who worked with Pratt on Guardians of the Galaxy series, has defended Pratt and said people have utterly false beliefs about him. The CEO of Illumination did briefly touch upon the significance of working with Nintendo. He said, quote, Nintendo is one of the companies we respect and hold in high estate. This collaboration, I think, is unprecedented in its closest. Meanwhile, Chris Pratt himself, who was interviewed by in Verity, chimed in terms of him voicing Mario, and this is what he had to say. Quote, I work really close with the director and trying out a few things and land on something I'm really proud of and can't wait for people to see and hear. I am an animated voiceover narrative. It's not a live action movie. I'm not going to be wearing a plumber suit running all over. I'm providing a voice for an animated character, and it's an update and unlike anything you heard in the Mario world before. Now, I will say, even as a fan of the Mario series itself, though, and a longtime Nintendo fan, I am holding off final judgment on it, though. And it's possible Chris Pratt could pull this off. He could do a good impression of maybe Mario, though. So we haven't seen the trailer. We haven't heard the voice acting. So right now, I think it's way too early to pass final judgment on it, though. Do I think it's possible this film could be a train wreck? That's a possibility. I'm not going to rule that out entirely, though. So, and I will admit, I do have my concerns, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around the idea of Chris Pratt voicing Mario, and not the original, I think Charlie Masses, who's been voicing Mario since, the days of like Super Mario 64 and so forth, though. But I still think, taking a wait and see approach on this one, okay? Yes, it is possible this movie could be bad, but it could end up being good at the end, though. I mean, when the first trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog came out, though, a lot of people just really hammered on that movie, the trailer, very carefully, though. Particularly the way Sonic looked, which was aka the ugly Sonic, to be exact. That put pressure on Paramount and Sega to delay the movie from its November 2019 release to its February 2020. And when they showed off the new trailer with the better looking Sonic, though, minus, the eyes parts of it, though, it sat very well. And when the movie came out, it did very well at the box office. I mean, did I like the movie? Yes. I mean, it wasn't going to rewrite what movies based on video games were going to be, but it did show it is possible if done correctly, to be exact. And this obviously led to Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which, as I mentioned before, crossed over to the 400 million. So it's possible the Mario movie could go down the route that we saw with Sonic the Hedgehog. But again, a lot of it's going to be based on the impression, how well it's received by fans, both longtime Nintendo and Mario fans and non-Nintendo and Mario fans, and whether or not Chris Pratt can really impress us with his voice of Mario, to be exact, though. So for me, overall, I'm still somewhat little iffy and concerned about the movie, though. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the idea of Chris Pratt voicing Mario, but I'm going to hold off final judgment until basically when we finally see the official trailer or when the movie comes out, though. And again, it could go either way. It could end up being a train wreck, but at the same time, it could end up being good, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video, and this one has to do with Knights of the Old Republic 2 on the Switch, and apparently there is a major bug in it that seems as though that's not sitting well with some folks out there. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video, and this one has to do with the Nintendo Switch version of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, though. Now, Asparity, if I'm saying the name correctly, has been known for basically updating old games and porting them over to some of the current systems, particularly with the Nintendo Switch. We've seen this with, Episode 1 Racer, Republic Commando, though. It's worth pointing out they are part of Embracer Group that owns a lot of studios, including, a lot of the THQ Nordic, and obviously recently they just purchased several studios from Square Enix, to be exact, though. And recently they have released Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, though, along with the first one, and which are considered classic RPGs, especially developed during, before BioWare was purchased by EA and all. Well, recently it started to learn that apparently there is a major bug in the game that turns out to be, at least from the Nintendo Switch version, and it turns out that it even affects you, preventing you from getting to the end of the game, to be exact, though. In an article posted on by Nintendo Life, they also posted an update, so I'll get to that one in a moment, though. It reads that, quote, Aspyrs, A-S-P-Y-R-S, latest Nintendo Switch release, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, apparently has a bug in it preventing players from completing the game. In an exchange on social media, a player revealed how they experienced a game crash after the BASILISK crash cutscene when landing on Ondina, O-N-D-E-R-O-N. Apologize if I'm not saying that name correctly. There's no way to complete the game in its current state. They have replied back noting it was aware of this, and there's no way to complete the game currently. They're saying, they texted in response saying, quote, yes, we are aware, and our dev teams is working on and delivering the patch as soon as possible. We apologize for this inconvenience and appreciate your patience in the meantime. This issue would be addressed in the next patch, but currently there's no ETA on exactly when it will be rolled out to players on the Nintendo Switch. And then, of course, in a recent update, they have pointed out that they're saying a couple things. One, that this only seems to affect the small amount of players, and two, it reads that although Asprey has plans for a patch update to address this game-breaking bug affecting a small number of KOTOR 2 players on Switch, it now shares a temporarily workaround. Here is the official statement along with the required steps if you're stuck. It says, quote, we are aware of an issue that is preventing some Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, the Sith Lord players from advancing in the game. Our data suggests that this is only affecting a small number of users, but please rest assured we are working on a patch to fix it. One of the questions asked is the game keeps crashing after, this cutscene. What can I do to resolve it? Their answer is, quote, if you encounter this crash, our suggestion is a workaround is to warp past the point where the crash occurs using the cheat menu. Triple click on the left thumbstick, open the cheat menu, select warp, and warp to OND 504. Now, I do appreciate the fact that there is somewhat of a workaround about it, and that certainly is a good thing. But the fact that this bug made its way into the final version is, it's a little bit, I think that is unacceptable to be exact. A bug that basically prevents you from finishing the game altogether, even if the claim is that it only affects a small amount of players. Nevertheless, that isn't a good thing, though. And it's one of my criticisms of a lot of gaming that we've seen lately, and that's the whole idea of ship it, broke it now, and patch it later. Even if that wasn't the developer's intent in any way, it's still not a good thing, nevertheless. Yes, I think it's great that we're seeing developers are able to patch games, especially since it's different back to when I was around, where if the game shipped broken, it shipped broken. But we've also seen cases where developers have shipped a lot of their games broken and then patch it later. I mean, look at what happened with Cyberpunk 2077. That's one good example about it. So it is a little bit inexcusable, though, for a classic like this to ship in the condition that it was in. So overall, I would say I'm glad the developers are working on the patch. I'm glad that there is a workaround to this, but this bug should not have existed in the first place, to be exact. And this is inexcusable for any game to be developed in this kind of situation, though. Hopefully, this will be fixed as soon as possible, though. But it does make me kind of worry that this is the same development team that's working on supposedly the remake of Knights of the Old Republic, the first one for like the PS5 and the Xbox Series S and X. Seeing how this bug appeared, I'm very worried about them working on this remake, though. We'll see what happens. Maybe that game will turn out to be good, but given what we saw with Knights of the Old Republic 2, I can see why there might be some concerns and all that. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about what Treasure might be working on? Do you think it might be a sequel or spiritual successor to some of the games that they have worked on, whether it's Sin and Punishment, Akura, Gunstar Hero, Guardian Heroes, or Mischief Maker? Or do you think it could be maybe brand new IP or something left field that we never even heard about, though? What are your thoughts about the Xenoblade Chronicles 3, especially after seeing the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct, though? Are you still hyped for this game when it comes out July 29th, though? Are you looking forward to picking it up? Or are you going to pass this title altogether? Were you one of the lucky ones to get the collector's edition? Or are you simply just going for the regular edition, though? And what are your thoughts about them announcing the expansion pass during the Direct? Are you okay with that? Or you're not a fan of announcing the expansion pass as it gives the impression of cut content? And what are your thoughts about the amiibo functionality for Xenoblade Chronicles 3? What are your thoughts about the Mario movie and how the head of Illumination and Chris Pratt has responded to this, though? Has this in any way convinced you that the upcoming Mario movie will be good? Do you think it's going to be terrible? Has it not really changed your opinion on it in any way? And what are your thoughts about this KOTOR 2 bug that seems to have popped up in the Nintendo Switch version of, Knights of the Old Republic 2, though. Do you think this is unacceptable, though? Are you glad, or are you pleased that they are working to patch this and there is somewhat of a workaround against this, though, even though it involves going to the cheat menu? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icons and notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal Me or Patreon. The links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, wish you all a good day then. Bye.